Good day, everyone. I'm very pleased to welcome you all to this new Privacy Espresso from Privacy Rules, our condensed 10-minute update from all around the world on how privacy and cybersecurity evolve. Today with us, there is Luiza Sato, who's one of the leading lawyers at ASBZ Advogados in Brazil, and is one of the leading experts in privacy in Brazil and the Latin American level. Luisa will speak to us about a recent call for comments from the Data Protection Authority of Brazil with regards to a new resolution that the ANPD, this is the acronym of the DPA in Brazil, would like to adopt for what concerns data transfer. Before we move forward with some questions to Luisa. Luisa, could you introduce yourself and your expertise, please?
Of course, Andrea, I'm really glad to be here again, one more time, to speak to you about this call for contributions from our DPA. So my name is Luiza Sato. I work at ASBZ here in São Paulo, Brazil. And my expertise is in data protection, digital law, and intellectual property. I have been working for the past few years with data protection in Brazil. It's sort of a new subject, but I have been working with that since 2013, around that, and especially with the LGPD now, right? Because we have this law. It's going to have its fourth anniversary already, so it was really fast, right? How time flies, and well, that's it.
Excellent. So let's talk about this call for contributions. So we are talking, as we said, about data transfer. Now, data transfer is one of the ways by which companies grow in the digital world. So can you tell us about this perspective from Brazil, please?
Sure. So the cross-border data transfer for us is a very important matter. So the LGPD is really based on the GDPR. So we wanted to adopt this standard, this global standard for our data protection laws and regulations here in Brazil. And the international data transfer is a pretty big deal for us to become adequate and follow the standards of the world. It is, of course, an important subject for the ANPD or DPA to discuss, because we cannot have this law that really makes it unfeasible for companies to transfer data abroad, but we also should have mechanisms to protect the personal data from data subjects, right? So what we have here is a chapter in our LGPD that was really based on the GDPR. It's almost a copy thereof, and but we still have no regulations on that. So we have this and in the GDPR, it's already a lot of things to do, and you have to transfer data abroad. You have to have an adequate decision. If you don't have, you have to have certain documents to allow for the data transfer. And we have the same in Brazil, but we do not have. We still do not have the regulations to make everything happen. For us, this is really important because we have multinationals in Brazil. We transfer data all the time to other companies, so we really expect a lot from this new regulation.
Excellent. And so, on the basis of your expertise, which is extremely solid, which are the top 3 priorities for a regulation of this kind?
I would say that the first one would be the elements for the ANPD to consider a country adequate or not. So the content of their law and their case law, whatever the ANPD will consider to have this country as adequate to receive personal data from Brazil. We also have this possibility, I think it is, to copy the list that the European Union already has. This could be a way, because it's like the European Union should have done the due diligence already, so we shouldn't have to be doing that twice. So we could copy that list and add a few more countries. We still don't know how the ANPD will make this cut for the countries, and that's what we should contribute. And so this is the first one. The second one would be the mechanisms to allow for the data transfer whenever the country is not considered adequate. So the most popular ones being the binding corporate rules. So we have the same here under our LGPD, and the standard contractual clauses. So we do have those mechanisms here under our law, but we still do not have their content and nothing like that. So it's really one thing that we have in our law that cannot be applied in practice. So this is really important for us to have. And the third one would be how to communicate to the data subject that we are transferring his or her data abroad. This is to follow the transparency principle. So we should, of course, have privacy notices and privacy policies for employees, for consumers, for all the data subjects. But should we have a specific one for data transfers abroad? We don't know that. So this is also part of the call for contributions.
Excellent. And of course, this process will take some time. So pending the adoption of such an act, which are the top three suggestions you would give to companies? What should they do in order, on the one side, to respect data privacy rights of people in Brazil, but at the same time, and other jurisdictions, of course, but at the same time actually use data transfers in the digital world to grow and continue consolidating or expanding in the global markets?
Good. So I would say that we have to have very well written agreements whenever we're transferring this data, if intercompany or not. We should have these agreements providing for the obligations from both parties, the importing party and the exporting party. So this would be one practice that I would recommend. The second one would be to follow the transparency principle. So yes, let the data subject know that his or her data is being transferred abroad with privacy policies or a banner or an agreement, anything, but the data subject should be aware that the personal data is being transferred abroad. And let's see, the third one would be to follow best practices. So information security practices and take good care of the data that is being transferred. Also following the our necessity principle, which would be the minimization of data, just transferring whatever is really necessary to comply with the purpose of why you're transferring that. So following best practices is always the best way to go.
Luisa, thank you so much. I mean, you said best practices, information security, and well-written agreements. I mean, these are all elements that privacy rules as an alliance can provide, also thanks to the cybersecurity companies that are part of our ecosystem. Evidently, for all listening to us, representatives, executives of companies, we strongly recommend going to Luisa, going to SBZ Advogados for having the agreement well-written, the best practices interpreted, and making sure that this fantastic asset, which is the data of people, will be processed and transferred in a way that is in compliance with international regulations. Luisa, thank you so much for this. We will work together in order to contribute to this call from the National Data Protection Authority of Brazil. And we will be surely listen to new espressos from Brazil, because certainly that, as you said, is a thriving sector, the one of data privacy. And so we will be happy to have you again in our Privacy Espressos. Thank you. Obrigado.
Thank you, Andrea.